everyone. I've been chosen as an ambassador for National Student Pride, and this is my contribution to the Share Your Story campaign. I love this campaign because I think it's great to bring awareness to the fact that everyone has a different story and everyone has different experiences, both good and bad. And my story might be a bit untraditional from what people might be expecting, because for me personally, I don't believe in coming out. I don't think I should have to come out because it shouldn't be assumed that I'm straight. It shouldn't be assumed that anyone is straight or that straight is the default. I'm bisexual, and I literally knew my whole life. I remember the first crush I had on a girl in kindergarten, and because I had no perspective, I thought everyone was bi. I thought everyone was interested in everyone, if that makes sense. I just thought that there wasn't such a thing as sexuality because I didn't know. When I started school and all the girls were talking about what boy was the prettiest in the class and stuff, I was like, but those girls though. I definitely knew that I liked both girls and boys, but look-wise, I'm way more attracted to girls. So that's where my focus usually is. Like if I walk into a room, I'll notice the women before I notice the men. Stuff like that. That's why I tended to always have crushes on the girls in my class and not the boys. In the beginning of year 1, everyone had a rhyme made about their name. I'm Norwegian, by the way. My rhyme was Tone som ikke har en kone. Tone is my name. And that translates to Tone that doesn't have a wife. Wife is kone, so it rhymes with Tone. And that was my rhyme, so obviously people said it a lot, and everyone was like, well, of course you don't have a wife. And I was kind of just like, yeah, of course, I'm not old enough to be married. Not, of course I don't have a wife, I don't like girls. I never talked to anyone about being gay because it was just so normal to me that I didn't even consider it something that I needed to talk about, if that makes sense. I know that my story is a little bit weird because it wasn't this long process of self-discovery and realizing that I'm gay, because I always knew and I was always okay with it because I didn't even know that it could be seen as something negative, so I literally never thought anything bad about it. So that part was never difficult for me, which I know I'm so lucky. I'm not exactly sure when this happened. I was probably between 13 to 15. One of my closest friends came out to me. He had been confused about his sexuality all the way through school, and he had been kind of pestered a bit about, why don't you just come out already? Because he fit into people's stereotypes. He was very flamboyant. He did theater. He was a little bit nervous and he went, I'm bi. And I literally just went, me too. So that was a bit exciting. He was nervous because for him it had been a bit of self-discovery there, and I was the first person he told, so it was a little bit scary, I guess. Just saying something out loud makes it real, and then you have to deal with that. But for me, it was just exciting because I didn't really have a lot of gay friends back then, so I didn't really, have anyone to relate to or identify with that way. And after that, I was like, oh, this is kind of fun to talk about. So I told one of my other closest friends, and she was just like, yeah, cool. She didn't have anything to say. Norway is a very overall open-minded country. Being gay is legal, gay marriage is legal, gay adoption is legal. You can get married in church if you're gay, you can be a priest if you're gay. There is very little discrimination, but I'm not trying to invalidate people's experiences. Of course, this is my experience, and I'm not trying to say by any means that there is no homophobia or anything in Norway, because of course there is. Norway is not perfect, but I'm very privileged to have grown up in a country where I never had to feel bad about my sexuality. It was legal. Our prime minister is very pro LGBT+. She attends pride parades. Our king mentioned in his New Year's speech that everyone can love whoever they want to. My country has come a long way, and I know that there's so much privilege in that. I know that I'm so lucky to be from such an open-minded country where people get to love who they love. And I'm really lucky that I never had to be scared to be who I am. In my experience, and I know a lot of others share this experience as well, it's a lot easier to form heteronormative relationships. So my parents and family had only seen me date guys, and I never really had a conversation about, well, I like girls too, because I just didn't think of it, because I'd never told them I was straight, so I didn't feel like I needed to tell them I was gay. I don't know, I just don't feel like I need to tell people. Straight people don't have to come out, so I shouldn't have to come out. Also, I just wanted to say, if coming out is something that's right for you and it's helpful for you, of course, I don't think coming out is wrong if it helps you, but I don't think people should be expected to come out or that you're straight until proven different. I don't agree with that at all. I think I was 22 when this happened. I was sat with my mom, and she was talking about parents being worried that their kids were gay and how she didn't understand it, because she said that it's literally the same kid, so why would anything be different, if they can't, told you they were gay. And then she said to me, I know you're straight, but if you weren't, you would be the same girl to me, nothing would change. And I was like, I will need to correct you there. So I went, no, actually, I'm not straight, I'm bi. And she kind of looked startled, and her mind immediately went to, surprise, surprise, but you're gonna have kids, right? This is where it all went wrong, because I said, I don't even know if I want kids. And my mom just got so sad. like so upset and sad, but I perceived this as anger. I thought she was mad at me for being bi, and I was so confused because my mom is open-minded and doesn't discriminate, doesn't think differently of anyone. I never thought this would be a problem. I was really upset about it. I spoke to a few of my friends about it, and they were all so shook because they didn't see my mom, you know, reacting that way or handling it that badly. They were so confused, and so was I. It was a strange time. And actually, right after this, I got my first girlfriend, and I told my twin brother. I wasn't nervous to tell him, but I was nervous to tell him about how our mom reacted because I just didn't want him to feel like he was in the middle of like us arguing or something. We Skype called and I went, I have some news. Okay, so the word for girlfriend and boyfriend is the same word in Norwegian, and it's neutral, so it doesn't immediately, you know, disclose whether you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. It doesn't tell you the gender of your partner. So I went, I have a partner, whatever, and it's a girl, and his girlfriend literally went, I told you. But he was also shocked about how our mom had handled me telling her. And it wasn't until actually a few years later I talked to my twin brother about it again. We talked about when I came out to our mom and how she handled it, and we realized that she wasn't upset about the gay thing at all. She was upset about me not having kids. And I think that's quite common for a parent to react that way. I'm the only daughter, so I think my mom is excited that she gets to have the experience of her sons having kids and also her daughter having kids, because they are slightly different, I guess, and she just really wants to see her daughter pregnant, which I guess isn't that strange to want that. And when I spoke to my brother about it, it was like, why didn't I just realize that? Like, of course my mom would judge me. Why didn't I just realize this? So if you all take anything away from this, talk to people, communicate properly so that stuff like this doesn't have to happen. A few Christmases ago, I was sat with my mom and she read this article about a lesbian couple that couldn't celebrate Christmas together because one of them always had to celebrate with her family. Her family was homophobic and she couldn't tell them about her partner, so they couldn't spend Christmas together. And my mom went something like, imagine not even being able to tell your family. And I kind of just thought, like, this is probably my opportunity to talk about this. And I kind of just went, you know that person that I talked about one time when I was home and I bought that stuff for? And she was like, yeah. And I went, that was my girlfriend. And my mom was kind of like confused why I hadn't told them, because I usually tell my parents when I have news in that area of life. So it kind of turned into this like, oh my god, I can't believe this happened kind of thing. I told her that I'd spoken to my twin brother about it, and she was like, he knew? Like, she was like almost upset that I hadn't told her, but I'd told him, and she just didn't get to hear about it. So she was understandably a little upset that she had made me feel that way, but it was very clear that it was just about kids, and she also knows that it's my choice if I want to have kids anyway, and that whether I have kids or not isn't really decided by what gender the person I'm with is. I do see kids in my future, but only if I can give them a good life. You know, you're bringing someone into the world, you need to, you know, make sure that you can give them the life they deserve. So that's that surely summarized. So that was my story. I hope it helps someone out there to hear that there are positive experiences, and I know that I'm in such a privileged position being from a country where being gay is legal and so accepted. That's it from me. Make sure you check out the other Share Your Stories on National Student Pride's YouTube channel, and I'll probably see you all again soon. Bye!